Hello, everyone. Welcome to, I can see without it, this week's episode of the Quantum Love Experience. And today I just wanted to go into more detail about the levels of love and the way that we develop in love relationships. So I talked about this in a previous recording, but I just wanted to journey deeper into the reasons why we form the relationships we do. It's a subject that affects every being on earth today, and they will experience and learn from this in a very emotional and intense way. So we established that your personal relationships are connected to the type of relationship that you have with your parents or had growing up as a child. But I'm briefly going to touch upon the very first stage, how you were conceived. It's the key to the foundation of how your soul synergistically manifested into physical matter and came into being. Your internal point of creation from your parents. And this is really, really interesting. So in the living light story of your ancestors and parents, due to the manipulation by domination and control, the levels of suppression when discussing issues about sex and sexual issues with your children seems shameful and embarrassing. This is a deep cultural reflection of the controls of the past, where the concept of love has been wiped out politically and culturally, out of you, out of some ancestral experiences, but definitely out of the realism of mainstream dynamics. So how were you created? Most parents have never talked about the way that their children were conceived, or even how they honestly felt about life, or felt at the time of the conception of your life. Were your parents happy? Did they love each other? Did they actually want to have a child? Were you an accident? All these things carry an impact onto the way that you came forward and emerged as a biological spiritual entity. Each individual I want to just get to this part as well. Were you conceived out of love from a deep, unbridled passion? That's really important too, because that's going to have yet again another shape and form on the way that you were created and manifested into this world. So each individual lineage carries an individual imprint of circumstances that brought your birth to now. Here we find incredible love or not. It is all individual and related to you personally. The relationships with parents is key, because from an early age, your baby child self is internally recording not only the relationships that your parents have, but the personal relationship with each parent if they're both present. You develop love and trust with mother and father, bonds that will carry through for life. The biochemical reactions and imprints are set, negatively or positively, depending on your experience. The next overlooked issue is the confusion between sex and love. They are very different in nature. The building blocks for your personal sexual journey is created from the very first sexual experience that you have. Were they good, loving experiences, or just fumbling around, finding your way around and hoping for the best? It is the first voyages of sexual discovery that will shape every relationship that you have in the future as you navigate through life, making sense of the experiences and the sexuality that you have expressed. Here we begin to receive and wear the energies of all our past sexual encounters. When we interact sexually with others, we begin to store the other person's energy on our own reproductive areas. And these areas can often become dense and painful in some ways, felt at sacral relationship energy center. So here It can be really dense in women and create heavy and painful menstruation for some, while holding the unprocessed unconscious energies of the male. And for men, they will experience the storing of energies of women or the other partner in their reproductive zones, such as penis, balls, prostate. Every client I have worked with energetically will present these energies. And it depends on how many and who they've had as partners and what unconscious emotions are at play. We are not told that we need to cleanse the energies of the reproductive systems of the male and female. And in this not knowing, we unconsciously add these behaviors that have been spiritually and energetically absorbed by each individual. This energy will present itself through every living day of your experience that you have in thought, form, and action of the individual. To illustrate this picture in a clear and strong way, just so you can get an idea of what this message is. Client number one, this is a case study. 35-year-old male who was very promiscuous. His heart was locked down and in pain, and he was unable to expand and resume his spiritual journey. He felt his consciousness was restricted. His soul was regularly leaving his body, not being present, and he would put himself in dangerous situations. He had thoughts racing through his head continually and would hear voices indicating extreme mental anguish at the life he was leading. This also happened to him in the dream world. He told me that sometimes he had sex with different women every night. In the session, I scanned his body. I saw dark brown energy woven into and around his reproductive areas. He often complained that his hips hurt and his back was often out of action. Some of you may laugh at that, but really this is no joke. So the dense energies that he held were literally creating a programmed response for him. And it was holding the information that kept creating these sexual experiences over and over again. He literally was programmed to repeat. I asked him questions about his early sexual experiences. He told me that he felt he was groomed by an older female friend. And this progressed into the teenage years. He became more and more promiscuous with older women. Then he had a relationship with someone, his soulmate. He loved her so much. Despite his true heart's feelings, he was unfaithful to her with one of her friends. She subsequently ended the relationship, and it left him brokenhearted and depressed and not feeling himself or his journey. His heart was raw, and he punished himself, trying to numb himself of the pain or separate from the experience, separate himself like he'd compartmentalized it and had to basically shut off the other experience so he could just continue moving in the same promiscuous way. He kept continuing to have random sex with lots of women at this point. The picture that I saw and the pictures that I saw and witnessed, the energy movement was really energetically dirty. As I began to remove the frequencies from his reproductive areas, the dirty energy that was brown, full of astral flies. Some of the things that I've witnessed are really quite shocking. And the incubus succubus technology began to lift from his heart at the same time. We began to resolve the core issues of his experience, bringing remedy into his life situation. He wanted to love. He wanted to marry and have children. His system came back online. He'd learnt his soul lessons from his experiences. The pain dissolved This is just one case where he had the opportunity to clean himself up and prepare him for the sacred family journey that was ahead of him. So this is case number 2, client number 2, 26-year-old female who was liberated in her sexual expression. She felt liberated enough to have a lot of male sexual partners as part of her learning experience. She would experience heavy menstruation that would last for 10 days at a time, often in agony. She experienced paranoia and a wide range of negative emotions that would shape her interactions with others. She did not feel safe in the world in some aspects. This was wired into her reproductive areas, uterus, and here we have another case of succubus technology. It is commonly found in promiscuous women. When I asked her about her early sexual interactions, she told me that some of her male friends had played around together for fun when they were younger. Excuse me. This situation was repeating over and over again, preventing her from finding the true partner that she sought after. It changed her behavior of receiving and giving in this world, because it was literally about output, taking in energy and the output of energy. Now, this was a very alchemically potent force that was in operation. What we were dealing with here, it was so potent that it began to override her natural feminine energy and left her monthly cycle, giving her a lot of pain, unable to move, unable to process the heavy and dense data left internally within her. So as the session progressed, a deep release took place. She cried as the blackish grey demon was removed from her uterus, literally feeding off both parties' energies. Her body eventually came back online, and she lay in a still point of softness. Her demeanour had changed. She had softened. Her facial expressions were incredibly relaxed. She was no longer carrying entities in her feminine areas. She was advised not to engage in sexual activity with others for a while, so that she could get to know her own pure energies better, uncontaminated by residues of energy and demons from the partners that she'd slept with. And this is huge. It's absolutely huge. So many people experience this, and there will always, at a certain age, be heavier, more complex cocktails of these unconscious processes that are literally left behind on the point of contact of the sexual action. So then the next level of that is, and the other factor that takes shape in your physical form as you progress through your years, past life relationship impacts. Now, those that you share relationships with, you've met before. Some are soul contracts. Others have been past partners, husbands, wives, lovers, connections. Depending on the individual situation, in sessions I found that there are still physical links to others from different times, spaces and places. Lack of resolution with past partners will follow you directly into the future because they are unresolved spiritual experiences. Drawing the individual out of new relationship potentials and keeping them out of the sacred and divine reality that is possible in relationships. There will be lots of trauma here, of course. Where there is trauma, there is a multitude of issues from past time frames of existence. And of course, trauma is pain. All held within and limiting your love expression in 5D terms, because you're never going to be able to increase that level of frequency within you if you are blocked by pain or trauma in those regions. And this extends to the heart as well, because it's literally not able to handle the frequency of the fullest potential and capability of you. It's going to be blocked, a bit like a pipe. When you try and run water through a pipe and there's a little blockage in there, you're going to get a smaller trickling flow, not the full enormity of the quantic energy. Now, these relationship patterns are hardwired. Oh, no, I'm there, of course. So it's a bit like carrying oversized luggage with all these combinations tied to your infinite experience. This will prevent your soul from living its fullest divine. And it will, if unresolved, be carried over to resolve in the next incarnation. Oh, I mean, really, who wants that? Who wants to be tied into those previous relationships that you've had in this lifetime and meet them in the next lifetime? Do you want that? Is it over? You won't mind if the situations are resolved. So the next aspect of that is the deep historical nature of this kind of form. Okay, so we don't want the relationship patterns carried through. They're held at DNA memory level and eventually become manifest until you deal with it. And it will include the alert of emotional pain that will be letting you know that it needs to be dealt with. Otherwise, it will turn into a chronic condition. And this is the same for any illness. So we really must remember that spiritual contracts, agreements, vows, and promises can be tricky to navigate. It's really tricky when you're doing it for yourself on an interpersonal level. So the next level of that, excuse me, the masculine feminine split in our consciousness was a form of separation that was installed en masse after the Lemurian traitors and magicians and other off-world entities had interfered via experimentation. The soul-splitting groups had created the most painful separation yet, the separation of feminine and masculine consciousness for each individual race that came here to love with Earth. These Anunnaki and Nephilim types would also pit the masculine and feminine against each other, often for sport and fun, which instilled a deep schism in the psyche of the human soul. Feeling of contentment and inner wholeness and satisfaction was dissipated, creating great difficulty and imbalances within relationships, creating trauma, resentment, anger, mismatching, and devastation and inner conflict. Excuse me. This disconnect became apparent at heart level because there were those individuals that could not love themselves, could not love others, and sought to destroy all that was love. We see further evidence of this in the program agenda, where the soul is dehumanized through transgender ideologies that we see now. The whole acceptance of the soul in the human body is necessary for the ultimate spiritual function. Know your masculine side, know your deep feminine side, because each carries a gift for you to grow within your experience. So now you can see why I created the quantum love experience. All humans on Earth, in all cultures on Earth today, will have been a part of this previous existence from the 4 previous worlds. Once you reach a certain level of integration in this lifetime, you will begin to feel solid in your own being. There is always room to grow within and expand this part of yourself. This creationary energy of this universe is important to your function and growth. Your ego may tell you that you've learned all your lessons, that you already know how to love and be loved. Sorry to disappoint you. It's not true. There are very few on Earth today that have actually made it to the level of actual divine love with self. It will be a soul directive for you to be your divine love frequency. Once you've established that level of love within yourself, When you get to this point of realizing your inner divine love frequency, once you've established this level of love within yourself, you begin to magnetize and create more of the natural resonant matches for your heart soul experience, and then become ready to move to this higher frequency love, soul love that you seek, and every being seeks it. So after all, everyone wants to love and be loved. You need to love yourself first and foremost, every living cell in your body, spirit, and soul. Free from the system who will seek to destroy through circumstance any true love that you hold. When you get to this point in your own awakening, you will shine like the sun. No system can interfere with you. You will be vaster and brighter than any system that enforces or imposes its way of being onto you or your loved ones. Go to the next level. So I just wanted to tell you about that. These are really important factors from you reaching the quantum love experience. And that's really going there in your own experience, rinsing out everything that was traumatic to those times, and really beginning to love yourself. And then everything is magnetized from there on in. So this fabulous line will be on the 3rd, 2023, 7 p.m. EST. It will be amazing to share this journey with you. The Divine Love Ship, where we travel through all eras to look at your situation. It's individual, and we will work with your technology to upshift you to higher frequency love within, whilst clearing your trauma and resolving it. Ooh, absolutely joyful. And I look forward to seeing you there. It's going to be amazing. Do find all details below, leave a like. Shake on, leave a love. But there you go, that's the system. Thank you, all you beautiful people that share this journey. We all have been connected before on some level. Let's take it to the next level. And blow this thing out of the water.